October has been a pretty great month for 40k reveals and releases. Multiple combat patrols, new detachments, and more Ultramarine coddling than anyone needs. Oh, and 7 whole new Battleforce box sets. So watch the video to find out about all this new epic stuff. Let's just say that we've been eating good, boys. Wait, that sounds a bit dodgy. Let's get to it. First of all, I'm gonna as quickly as possible go through the stuff that got announced in September but got their stats and stuff in October, and they've also just gone up for pre-order. Quick disclaimer, I'm gonna be talking about Ultramarines and all the attention that they are getting. If this offends you, I'm truly sorry, especially to you Chaos fans. Anyway, Marneus Calgar has a new model switching from Gravis armor back to Terminator, and they've actually done something very interesting. So Calgar already has an up-to-date model in the Gravis variant, and now he has a Terminator armor variant too, but in the article it basically says the new version isn't replacing the old one. You can take whichever one you want, just as long as they're not in the same army together, because that would be weird. Thank you, Games Workshop. I'm so glad you had to clarify that running 2 Calgars in the same army would be weird. Oh, and just so you know, the old one is no longer for sale, but you can pick up the new one for £34 or $55.50. Here is the new datasheet, which hasn't really changed much. He's lost his 2 Victrix Honor Guard, but they come as a separate squad now. His stats are the same, although he did gain the Deep Strike keyword though, which is pretty interesting. As for his abilities, they're mostly the same still. His Inspiring Leader was changed ever so slightly, so he'll still be able to shoot and charge in a turn he advanced or fell back, but now he can do this even when he isn't leading a unit, so it's a little change. And obviously, he doesn't get the Honor Guard of Macragge ability, which gave him his 4+ Feeling of Pain when you had the Victrix Honor Guard alive, because he no longer has the Victrix Honor Guard. This should make his points cost go down a touch though, maybe to like 120 or something. Another slight change is that he can now lead a few more units. Not that he was starved for options, because he could already lead the vast majority of units, but now he can lead the new Victrix Honor Guard unit, regular Terminators, and Assault Terminators, as you'd hope. Something else kind of funky is that, as you would expect, he gained the Terminator keyword, but he doesn't necessarily have to lead Terminator units because of his vast options that he can lead. And sure, this is interesting enough because it doesn't really happen too often, but it also means that certain stratagems and stuff locked to Terminators in certain detachments, like some of those First Company Task Force ones for example, can now be applied to units they usually wouldn't be, and that might make for some interesting strats. Also, you can see a sword on him, but it has no stats or anything. I might be missing something from the lore, or maybe it's like ceremony or something. I just think it's funny he's carrying around an extra sword, even though his gauntlets of Ultramar are said to be unbreakable. It's just a bit funny, isn't it? Moving on, Cato Sicarius got a new model, which you can pick up now for £29.50 or $48. His datasheet stats are pretty similar, although his Talisarian Tempest Blade, which did only have 1 profile, has been updated and now has 3. He has a Strike, Sweep, and Coup de Grace profile, and that as you'd expect, with the Coup de Grace giving precision. His abilities have changed a tad. He keeps his Knight Champion of Macragge, giving him once per turn 6-inch reactive move, but his old lead from the front one, which gave his units Scout 6 inches and all ranged weapons had Assault, has been replaced with Honour or Death, which allows him to use Heroic Intervention for 0 command points. He can now only lead the Victrix Honor Guard, but he can do so even if you have Calgar in the same unit, which just sounds really scary. I'm not certain if his older datasheet is sticking around. It probably will until we get another Space Marine Codex. So does this mean you can use the older datasheet instead if you wanted? His old datasheet is called Captain Sicarius instead of just Cato Sicarius, and he has slightly different abilities and can lead different things, but it's not really too clear if you can still use the older one or not. We've also got the new Victrix Honor Guard models. The box costs £38.50 or $65, and you get 3 models, which can be built in a few different ways. There's the regular Victrix Honor Guard, or you can build one as a company champion, or there's also a Chapter Ancient option. These guys got their new rules though, so let's go through it. The stats are similar, but each guy has gone from OC 1 to 2, and now has got 4 wounds each, when they used to only have 3, which with a 2+ save is crazy bulky, but they don't have an invulnerable save though. They actually have a ranged weapon now in the Mastercrafted Bolt Carbine, and their melee weapons have changed from the Victrix Power Sword to a Mastercrafted Power Weapon, but the stats are still the same as the old ones. If you are running a company champion though, he gets the Blade of Honour, which is like the regular company champion's sword with its precision and stuff, but this one has Twin Link too, to make sure enemy characters are very dead. If you have the Banner of Macragge, then once per battle at the start of the fight phase, you can add 1 to the whole unit's strength and attack characteristics until the end of the phase, and I mean what? That is pretty crazy. Now that these guys are their own unit, they have their own abilities now. Glory of Ultramar, so if an enemy shoots you in their shooting phase and kills any of your models, you get to roll a d6 and move that many inches to get as close to an enemy unit as you can. You just can't do this if you're battle shocked, and you also can't get into engagement range. The other ability, called Ultramarines Honor Guard, is active when a captain or chapter master is leading the unit, and it makes the unit -1 to wound, like what company heroes do. I have no words though, so now you can get a unit of 6 Victrix Honor Guards, probably with both a chapter champion and a chapter ancient mixed in, joined by both Cato Sicarius and Marneus Calgar, giving you an absurdly tanky unit that moves extra when they take casualties, and with some pretty nutty melee attacks, or you can just put them in a transport and speed them up the board and kill everything when you get out. We do not know the points cost yet, but for this one mega unit, it'd probably be like 300 to 400 points or something, which is a pretty big investment, but you'd be getting one hell of a scary unit in return. Finally, I can stop yapping about the Ultramarines. Just kidding, we're only getting started, baby. So for Warhammer Day, that captain with a jump pack and relic shield came out, and he's pretty cool. Well, he's not locked to the Ultramarines, you can use him for any chapter, but the Ultramarines Combat Patrol is out for pre-order for £105 or $170. I've covered this briefly in last month's video, but you get Chief Librarian Tigerius, who's basically a slightly cooler librarian, and his melee weapon is called the Rod of Tigerius, and I'm just too immature to ignore that. You also get 5 Intercessors, which are great for sticky objectives, 3 Aggressors for some tanky Gravis lads, 5 Reavers for some Phobos with really cool helmets, then 3 Blade Guard Veterans for some elites. And you're also getting an Ultramarines upgrade frame, which has some nice options on it. I've said it before, this is a pretty good combat patrol. You'd be getting 415 points worth, which is pretty acceptable for a combat patrol, and you'd be getting a bunch of important units. I like this box because it's very on theme, as the Ultramarines are a jack of all trades legion, and in this box you get a Psyker, Tacticus, Gravis and Phobos armoured units, and some elites. It's a great mix. It's held back a touch by the fact you get an Ultramarines exclusive character in Chief Librarian Tigerius, so this box wouldn't be great for non-Ultramarines armies, but I also think if you cut off his banner and swap his head, it's a pretty simple kit bash into a regular librarian, and then you can use his rod in any chapter. Also, Space Marines in general have a Battleforce box out for pre-order, called the Crux Terminatus. I've done a whole video on it, which I'll put in the description. Basically, it's a £155 or $250 box, which contains all Terminators, including new models for the Terminator Ancient and Assault Terminators, who can have both Lightning Claws and Thunder Hammers. In the box, you get 5 regular Terminators, 10 Assault Terminators, 1 Terminator Captain, a Terminator Chaplain, and a Terminator Ancient. Then you also get a new Terminator transfer sheet. You're getting 775 points of pure Terminator awesomeness, but this box is already sold out, so hopefully they'll restock it, because that seems absurd for such an anticipated box. They probably should have stocked up more. As you're probably aware, this is not the only Battleforce box announced. Far from it. In fact, we have 7 new Battleforce boxes announced this month, which will probably be coming out just in time for Christmas, as they usually do each year. And I mean, is it not the perfect Christmas present? A big box of Warhammer 40k? It would get me all nostalgic to Christmas Day from my childhood, where you'd shake the box and you could hit the little Lego inside. It's just like that, but with our little plastic dollies instead. I've already done a larger video explaining all the models and their stats and stuff, but I'll still give a quick rundown in a sec. But I won't really go into detail on anything. I'll put the video link in the description too. Because of the price increases, these boxes are probably going to be £155 or $250, and you basically get a big chunk of an army for whatever faction you bought. First of all, there's the Emperor's Children box, called the Blissbound Warband, and you get Fulgrim himself, the Demon Primarch of the Emperor's Children, 6 Flawless Blades, 6 Noise Marines, and an Emperor's Children transfer sheet, getting you a nice 705 points army. As for the deal, if you bought the units separately, it would cost you £224 or $364, so you are saving a nice amount of money. The box is a good option if you want to pick up Fulgrim and you just can't justify buying him on his own, then you'd be getting another hefty chunk of Flawless Blades, and I guess Noise Marines too. And you've probably already got a bunch of these units if you play Emperor's Children, because you get a lot of them in the Combat Patrol and stuff, and the Emperor's Children range is just so limited at the moment. Secondly, the Leagues of Votan got a box called the Chthonian Prospect, and you get a Brockier Ironmaster with that Ironkin Assistant and 3 Ecogs, 3 Brockier Thunderkin, 2 Chthonian Earthshakers, 10 Chthonian Berserks, a Capricus Defender, which can be built as a Capricus Carrier, and 2 Votan transfer sheets, getting you an over 500 point army, which without the box would cost you £227 or $369. You get some nice units, and I especially like the slightly newer Chthonian Earthshakers, but for me it's a little too heavy on the Berserks for my liking, but that is just my opinion. Next up are the Tyranids with the Crusher Stampede box, which is a little different than normal, because instead of getting a small sort of army, you're getting 5 big beefy models. You get a Neurotyrant with his 2 little Neuraloids, a Screamer Killer, a Tyrannofex, which can be built as a Turvigon, a Horusphex, which can be built as an Exocrine, and a Maleceptor, which can be built as a Toxicrine. This will get you a very solid 700 to like 800 points onto the table, depending on how you build your models, and without the box, it'd be costing you £219 or $361. I think this is a nice box for Tyranid players, allowing you to pick up some models that you may have missed previously. The Tau also got a box in the Farsight Cadre, and it's another kinda unique one. You get Commander Farsight himself, a Riptide battlesuit, a Broadside battlesuit, 3 Crisis battlesuits, and a bunch of drones, and a Tau infantry transfer sheet. You'd be getting between 465 and 495 points depending on how you build your Crisis battlesuits, and this is a bit lower than the rest of the boxes, but this tends to happen with cheaper armies. You'd still be getting a similar deal though, with it costing £211 or $345 if you bought the stuff separately, and it's a nice box for Tau players to get Farsight and friends, if he's not someone you already have. Now, we couldn't not have a Space Marine release now, could we? It's called the Iron Halo Strike Force, and to be honest, it's actually a really good box. You get a Captain, a Lieutenant, Company Heroes, 5 Sternguard Veterans, 5 Hellblasters, a Redemptor Dreadnought, and a Ballistus Dreadnought, as well as 2 Space Marine transfer sheets, 2 Space Marine vehicle transfer sheets, and the pretty new Space Marine head box. The box comes to a creamy 805 points, which is actually the most out of all these boxes. For the discount, it is £216 or $360, but that is without the cost of the head box, which would probably be like £20 or $30. So it's a nice box to pick up for some important Space Marine units that you may have missed, especially for those dreadnoughts. And also 2 leaders is a really nice touch, and they can be fitting in basically any army. Now, we've got a box for the Heretic Astartes called the Hellforged Warband. You get a Lord Discordant on a Hellstalker, a Venom Crawler, 2 Obliterators, 5 Havocs, 10 Legionaries, a Chaos Rhino, and 2 Chaos Space Marine transfer sheets. This is another really good Battleforce, getting you 800 points worth and costing around £217 or just under $350. And I think if you play Chaos Space Marines, you best be getting hyped about this box, because I really like it. And once again, it's a good way to get some units you may not have, and it's always nice to get a Rhino and some battle line troops. For our final box is for the Astra Militarum, and it's an all Krieg box called the Krieg Siege Platoon. You get a Krieg Command Squad, a big 20 Death Corps Krieg Troopers, 5 Combat Engineers, and 2 Artillery teams, with a few different weapon options. You also get a Death Corps Krieg transfer sheet. Overall, this is around 450 points dependent on how you run your troopers, which may seem a bit low, but again, cheaper armies you have to buy more stuff to fill out your points. Still, without the box it'll cost you £204 or $332, and it is a decent box. I just didn't expect another big Krieg box after they already had one at the start of the year, and they pretty recently got their Combat Patrol too. That's all of the Christmas Battleforce boxes. Let me know down below what your thoughts are, and if you're going to be picking any up for yourself or someone else. I think all of the boxes are pretty decent. That being said, I think the most standout are the Space Marine one and the Chaos Space Marine ones, and then I'd probably put the Votan one as my least favourite, but I still quite like it, and I think having another Krieg box is a little odd too. They do have loads of aura though. To be honest, I was kind of hoping for an Orc and Eldari box, but we can't have everything now, can we? The final 2 of the heroes of the first founding got their updates, so the White Scars and the Iron Hands. I've done separate videos on both of these chapters, so if you want to know more I'll put the links in the description. So now, to save time, I'll only really quickly brief over the changes that these chapters got. I'll start with the White Scars. They got their own combat patrol with Sabodin Khan, 3 Outriders, 5 Assault Intercessors, and an Impulsor Transport, and the White Scars transfer sheet too. It's a fine box. You're only getting 10 models, which is really low, but like, you get a bunch of big models, so it kinda makes up for it. The points of the box are also low though, at only 340, which is quite disappointing, but then again, this box is the only way to get Sabodin Khan at the moment. So if you want it, all power to you. Just be aware, it's selling out really quickly, and it won't be getting restocked. In fact, I think it might have sold out online already, but you can still find it in physical stores. Talking of Sabodin Khan, he's the new White Scars character, for 115 points, and he's mounted on a great big hover bike thing, and he's a very scary threat with those Outriders. Finally, the White Scars got their new exclusive detachment. It's an updated Stormlance task force called the Spearpoint task force, and it's locked to the White Scars. The core detachment rule stays the same, but you gain access to a second detachment rule if you're fielding Sabodin Khan, which allows for more movement, because the detachment clearly doesn't have enough movement now, does it? In all seriousness, they've changed some of the enhancements and stratagems around, and it's actually a pretty good detachment now, making Outriders, Sabodin, and the Chaplain on the bike really stand out in this detachment. The other chapters to be updated are the Iron Hands. They also got a new combat patrol. You get a Tech Marine, 10 Heavy Intercessors, 2 Fire Strike Servo Turrets, and an Iron Hands transfer sheet. If you watched my video, you'll know how I feel about this, but to be honest, I really don't like this box too much. I think it's on theme enough for the Iron Hands, with those chunky units and Tech Marine, but also 10 Heavy Intercessors seems a bit much, and then 2 Fire Strike Servo Turrets for the vehicle choice seems really weird. Why not put a Dreadnought in it? Sure, maybe it would overlap with the Space Marines Christmas Battleforce box, but A, by the time that comes out, the Combat Patrol will be sold out probably, and B, the new detachment focuses a lot on Dreadnoughts, so it makes sense to put a Dreadnought in. It is another option for getting a Tech Marine though, than just buying him on his own, and you're still getting a 405 point army, which isn't at the 500 point range that you'd hope for Space Marines, but hey, at least it's more than the White Scars. As for their new character, they got a Cato Sicarius. He's a Terminator character, and he's pretty important in the new detachment, and he's very calculating. The new detachment has done what the Imperial Fists one did, and is given a new version of the first company task force, and not the more commonly associated with Iron Hand's Ironstorm Spearhead, as I'm sure we expected. The new one is called the Hammer of Avony. It's changed the detachment rule slightly for the better, I think, and then it also has a new detachment rule if you have Cato Sicarius, allowing you to pick a new Oath of Moment target after you've destroyed the original Oath target, and this seems really quite good. You just gotta keep Mr. Cato Sicarius alive to keep using it. The enhancements and stratagems have been shuffled, and like the first company task force, many are locked to elites, but interestingly in this new detachment, a few have been spread to dreadnoughts, which is pretty nice. Overall, I'm really excited to see how this detachment plays, and I'm also excited to not see the combat patrol on sale anymore. Can you tell I don't like it? It's not even that deep, I just think it's funny. Just to finish off, we have a new kill team announced called Kill Team Dead Silence, where we've got some Tau stealth suits going up against some Space Wolf Wolf Scouts. And I'm sure you can use these units in 40k too, although I don't think Wolf Scouts have their own rules anymore, but you can always run them as scouts with slightly different weapons and stuff. The Harlequin Combat Patrol has been released, and it's quite a nice one, getting you a Solitaire, a 6 miniature Harlequin troop, 2 Skyweavers, and then 2 Void Reavers, which can be built as Star Weavers, and then also 2 Harlequin transfer sheets. You can pick it up now for £105 or $170, and it works as a pretty nice booster box for the Eldari. There's also a bunch of 40k Christmas stuff out too, if you're interested. And that pretty much sums up the reveals and releases from this month. We've got some pretty exciting stuff to look forward to though, so I hope to catch you next month, because we usually get big reveals in November. In fact, I think only next week we're going to find out a bunch of stuff, so that's pretty cool. Thank you for listening to me yap for an extended amount of time, and sorry to any damages that may cause your sanity, but peace out.